How to never get angry or bothered by anyone is not about becoming emotionless, weak, or passive, but about becoming so internally strong, so grounded in your own mind that other people lose the power to disturb your peace. And this is exactly what Stoicism teaches us, that your anger is not caused by people, words, or situations, but by the judgments you attach to them, because between what happens to you and how you feel about it, there is a space, and in that space lies your power, your freedom, and your responsibility. And most people never learn to live in that space. They react automatically, emotionally, impulsively, letting every comment, insult, delay, disrespect, or inconvenience hijack their mental state. But the Stoic understands one brutal truth early in life. You do not control other people, their behavior, their opinions, their moods, their intelligence, or their ignorance. And the moment you demand that reality behave according to your expectations, you sign a contract for lifelong frustration, anger, and disappointment, because the world does not exist to make you comfortable. People are not here to understand you, and life is not designed to be fair. And once you deeply accept this, not intellectually but emotionally, you stop arguing with reality. And when you stop arguing with reality, anger loses its fuel, because anger is resistance to what already is. Marcus Aurelius said that you always own the option of having no opinion, and this single idea can free you from almost every emotional disturbance you experience, because it's not the insult that hurts you. It's your opinion that the insult matters. It's not the delay that angers you. It's your belief that your time is being disrespected. It's not the rude person that disturbs you. It's your assumption that people should be polite, self-aware, and considerate. But Stoicism teaches you to replace these assumptions with clarity. People act according to their level of awareness, conditioning, pain, fear, and ignorance. And expecting wisdom from the unwise is like expecting a blind man to admire a painting. Once you see this, you stop personalizing behavior that was never about you in the first place. And this is where emotional invincibility begins. Because when someone insults you and you feel anger rising, the Stoic does not suppress it or explode with it. He observes it and asks, what belief is being challenged right now? What expectation of mine has been violated? And almost always the answer is ego, the desire to be respected, validated, agreed with, or seen as important. And Stoicism is ruthless with ego. It reminds you that you are a temporary creature on a tiny planet, surrounded by billions of equally confused humans, all acting out their own inner chaos. So why would you hand them the remote control to your inner peace? Why would you allow someone else's bad day, bad manners, or bad character to dictate your emotional state? Epictetus said that if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. And this idea alone can dissolve so much anger, because most of our irritation comes from wanting to look smart, right, dominant, or superior. But when you no longer need to win every argument, correct every mistake, or defend your image, people lose their ability to provoke you. And another Stoic principle that eliminates anger is the dichotomy of control, the understanding that some things are up to you and some things are not. And peace comes from investing your energy only where you have control. You control your thoughts, your actions, your values, and your responses. You do not control traffic, co-workers, relatives, strangers on the internet, or the past. And yet most anger comes from trying to control the uncontrollable, from wishing people were different, from replaying conversations, from imagining what you should have said, from demanding apologies that may never come. But the Stoic cuts this mental noise by asking a simple question. Is this within my control? And if the answer is no, he lets it go. Not because he is weak, but because he is disciplined. Because wasting emotional energy on what you cannot change is self-harm disguised as righteousness. And then there is the Stoic practice of negative visualization, imagining in advance that people will be rude, plans will fail, expectations will be broken. So when it actually happens, you are not shocked or enraged. You are prepared. You say to yourself, "Of course this happened. This is life." And preparation replaces frustration because anger is often the result of surprise. And when you remove surprise, you remove anger's foundation. And Stoicism also teaches you to zoom out, to look at your problems from a cosmic perspective, to remember how small this moment is in the span of your life, how small your life is in the span of history, and how small history is in the span of the universe. And suddenly, the insult, the delay, the disrespect feels laughably insignificant, not because your feelings don't matter, but because your awareness has expanded beyond the narrow tunnel of the present emotion. And when you truly internalize that everyone you meet is fighting their own battle, carrying their own fears, insecurities, traumas, and limitations, anger naturally turns into indifference or even compassion, because you realize that hurting people hurt people, and calm people don't go around trying to disturb others. So when someone tries to provoke you, the Stoic response is not retaliation, but understanding, not submission, but sovereignty, not suppression, but mastery. And mastery means you choose your response consciously instead of being dragged by instinct. And this is why Stoicism does not promise that you will never feel anger, but it promises that anger will no longer control you, because emotions are natural, but being ruled by them is optional. And over time, as you repeatedly practice observing instead of reacting, accepting instead of resisting, and focusing instead of obsessing, you reach a state where most things simply don't bother you anymore. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about the right things: your character, your integrity, your inner peace. And when that becomes your priority, other people's words and actions lose their power, because no one can insult your character unless you agree with them. No one can disrespect you unless you internalize it. And no one can steal your peace unless you hand it over willingly. And this is the Stoic secret to never getting angry or bothered by anyone. You stop outsourcing your emotional state to the external world and take full ownership of your inner life. You accept that life is unpredictable, people are imperfect, and discomfort is inevitable. But suffering is optional. And when you truly understand this, anger no longer feels necessary, useful, or justified. It feels like a waste of precious time and energy. And you finally realize that the strongest response is not rage, not revenge, not argument, but calm. Because calm is control. Calm is clarity. Calm is power. And when you master your mind, no one else can disturb it. Your equilibrium, because you have trained your mind to respond proportionally instead of emotionally, and proportionality is a Stoic virtue that most people lack, reacting to minor inconveniences as if they were personal betrayals. But the Stoic calibrates his response to the true importance of the event, asking whether this will matter tomorrow, next year, or on his deathbed. And most of the time the answer is no. And when you realize how little most things matter, you conserve your emotional energy for what truly deserves it. And this conservation is not apathy, but intelligence, because emotional energy is finite, and wasting it on trivial frustrations leaves you depleted when real challenges arrive. And another Stoic realization that dissolves anger is the acceptance of human nature, understanding that people will lie, disappoint, misunderstand, betray, and act selfishly, not because they are uniquely evil, but because they are human. And Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he would encounter meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly people, not to become bitter, but to become prepared, because anger often comes from idealism colliding with reality, from believing people should act better simply because you would. But Stoicism teaches that wisdom means meeting people where they are, not where you wish them to be. And when you release the fantasy of universal reasonableness, you stop being shocked by irrational behavior, and shock is the spark that ignites anger. And Stoicism also emphasizes impermanence, the understanding that everything passes, including this moment, this justice, even toward those who provoke you, because acting unjustly harms your own character more than it harms the other person. And character, to the Stoic, is the highest good, something no one can take from you unless you surrender it voluntarily. And when you internalize this, anger feels like a threat to your integrity rather than a justified response. And integrity becomes the compass that guides your behavior through provocation, reminding you that how you act matters more than how you are treated. And over time, this commitment to character creates a deep, quiet confidence, a sense that you can handle whatever comes without losing yourself. And this confidence itself reduces anger, because insecurity is often its hidden source. And as you grow more secure in who you are, less dependent on external validation, and more aligned with your values, fewer things have the power to disturb you. And eventually, you reach a point where even deliberate attempts to provoke you feel almost amusing, like watching a storm from inside a sturdy shelter, aware of the chaos but untouched by it. And this is not emotional numbness, but emotional maturity. The ability to feel without being overwhelmed, to care without clinging, and to engage without losing control. And Stoicism does not promise a life free of difficulty, but it promises a mind that can remain steady within difficulty. And when your mind is steady, anger becomes rare, brief, and manageable, no longer a dominating force but a passing signal, and you realize that peace was never something the world could give or take away. It was always something you cultivated through discipline, perspective, and choice. And once you truly grasp this, being bothered by others feels optional, anger feels unnecessary, and calm becomes your natural state. Not because life got easier, but because you got wiser.